everybody to the Single and Stilettos Show. I'm Suzanne Oshima, and I'm a matchmaker and dating coach at Dream Bachelor and Bachelorette, and I'm also the founder of Single and Stilettos. Today we have on our show one of the most amazing experts. I love her, Abiola Abrams. She's a passionate living coach at abiolatv.com, and she's also the author of the Sacred Bombshell Handbook of Self-Love, because self-love is so important. So Abiola, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Suzanne. I'm so excited whenever we get to, to do this show, whenever I get to do this show, because you're just such a woman about your business, and women need to keep listening to you because you've got the right stuff.
Well, I feel the same way about you. So today we're talking about mindfulness and dating. And ladies, I know you're wondering all about what does mindfulness and dating mean. But before we jump into it, Abiola, tell our audience a little bit about you and how you got into the dating industry.
Sure. Well, I am a passionate living coach, as you said, and my work is all about helping women to live their best lives. That I am a first-generation American. First person in my family born in the U.S. And my great-grandmother in Guyana was a midwife that she helped women to give birth to babies. She was a midwife and a woman's fertility healer. And I say that I do the same work, except for, she helped women give birth to babies, and I help women to give birth to themselves. And that, my family has been in the field of helping to empower people for several different generations. And for me, a big part of that journey was at when my first marriage failed and I felt like I didn't have anyone to turn to, that I started studying, human beings and people and interactions and relationships and, trying to find a better way to do things. That's how all of the best inventions came about in the world. There must be a better way. And so, from there, in addition to getting my master's degree, getting my coaching certification, working with women one-on-one, talking to women all across the country, and making, videos and books about empowerment.
Awesome. And she does empower women. She's amazing. So, Abiola, tell our audience what it really means about being mindful and dating.
Yes. Well, let's first delve into mindfulness a little bit, and then we'll stack dating on top of it.
Okay.
Now, mindfulness, in the book I have a chapter called Self-Being. The subtitle for the Sacred Bombshell Handbook of Self-Love is The 10 Forbidden Secrets of Feminine Power. One of those secrets, I say, is self-being. Self-being is really just mindfulness. I say when you don't have access to self-love, go for self-being, because, we've all grown up with people saying, just love yourself, just love yourself, just love yourself. And it becomes like white noise. We don't really know what it means. But loving yourself, has different stages and different parts to it. And it's really about the actions that you take. Mindfulness or self-being is about learning how to be comfortable with yourself and where you are. So when I say dating and mindfulness, it's about learning how to be present, not only on a date, but in a relationship. Can I break this down a little further, Suzanne?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So, a common situation that you and I have discussed as colleagues before is that we've both had dating clients that, are anxious from before the date to after the date, at every stage of the date, and never get to the joy. That you want to learn how to feel the joy, because you're not going to be able to pretend to be happy or pretend to be joyful or pretend to be flirtatious or all of those things that, will make you feel good and make a man feel good about wanting to be around you and enjoying who you are. And so mindful dating is, being present on the date. If you are on a date with someone, listening to him rather than, a lot of us, you can tell I love to run my mouth. We like to talk, but listening, that if you can listen to a man or a woman, whoever you're into, but if you can listen to a man in an active way where you are giving your full attention, that man is going to come away from that date feeling like he had a transformative experience with you because you were fully present in the situation. Another way to be mindful while you're actually on a date is, being present to, what you're eating rather than thinking about, and where you're going, what you're doing, what he looks like. Sometimes women come away from a date and I go, what did he look like? And they're like, I don't know. Let me pull his picture. Well, you were just with him, but it's because you weren't present, that you were busy thinking about, okay, all of the ways that he may or may not be Mr. Right for you. That another thing is, rather than sitting there wondering, is he the one? Does he like me? Be present in the moment and really milk the joy out of the present moment. That's what mindfulness in dating is. And then it's a difference with mind. We go deeper when it's mindfulness in a relationship, but it's the same principles.
Right. So I want to talk a little bit what you said about mindfulness and dating in the first date and listening to a man. Number one, I just want to add to that is, ladies, I will tell you that's men's biggest complaint on a first date, that all the woman did was she talked, and she didn't listen to anything he had to say. And you want to make sure, and I'm a big talker, Abiola's a big talker, but you want to make sure that it's an equal balance of a conversation where you're getting to know him. He's not there just to listen to you. You want to listen to him and make him feel like, wow, she really heard me, right?
Yes. And also, you won't know whether you even really like him if you weren't present, if you weren't mindfully present on the date. That a lot of times, because we're trying to make a man, Suzanne, just fit into whatever category we have, we may think, okay, well, I want him to be Mr. Right, rather than actually being mindfully present. And maybe you will see a red flag, or maybe you'll see something that, a reason to keep dating him or not date him at all or whatever. But you won't notice those things if you're not really there in the moment.
Exactly. And I see this big mistake a lot is a lot of women will go out on a first date and they'll go through their head in their little checklist and go, okay, he has this, he doesn't have this, I don't know if I can marry this man. Is stop going through that checklist and start just getting to know a man. Because I will tell you, I've seen this all too often, is that you meet someone who has everything on your checklist or pretty close, and then you had no chemistry whatsoever. So sometimes that checklist isn't really that important. Just enjoy the moment, as Abiola said. And what I tell people, and it sounds so basic, but I can't tell you how people go into a first date too serious and they're like, well, could this be the one? Just go have fun. Just go have fun. It's such a simple word, but I can't tell you how many people don't do that.
That is, Suzanne, that is everything. That, just repeat to yourself before you go, it's just a darn date, rather than just thinking, okay, well, he's got to be the one, or as you said, going through the checklist and, all of these things. It's just a date, rather than thinking, okay, well, wow, he lives in Pennsylvania half the year, I'm going to have to move. You just met him. This is your first date and you're planning in your head of why it might not be able to work out because you'll have to move.
Exactly. And I just have to address this because this is one thing that drives me crazy. Because for our audience, we both live in New York City, and this is a prevalent problem in New York, and it doesn't matter where you live because you can apply what I'm about to say to wherever you live. Is in New York City, it's very prevalent to hear a woman that lives in Manhattan that, well, I don't date men who live in New Jersey or that live in Brooklyn or Queens or wherever. They want someone that lives in Manhattan. That's absolutely ridiculous. If you met the right man and he was the most amazing man, would you not really just move 20 miles away? Or maybe he would move to you, but who knows? But stop putting limits on because of where he lives. Who cares where he lives right now? We want to see if he's a great guy in general.
Yes, that is so important, that, we go into all of these reasons of why it wouldn't work, and we weren't even present on the date to begin with. Like when you were talking, for example, Suzanne, about, the checklist, that, throw away the checklist while you're there with him on the date and be present with him, because you don't know what package your soulmate is going to show up in. And so if your soulmate shows up and, he looks different than you thought that he would, or has a profession that you thought he wouldn't have, or whatever it would be, a classic situation is, we're all Sex and the City fans, Charlotte, meeting her significant other who looks totally different than she thought that he would look. And so just be open. And you can't do that if you're not mindful, if you're not present on the date, if you're not like, okay, I'm going to be fully here for this next 2 hours or whatever it is.
Exactly. And I just want to go into a little bit about the checklist is really take a look at the checklist, because I honestly think, and Abiola and I have a good friend that works in the dating industry who says this all the time, and I repeat it all the time because it's so true, is Nando Rodriguez used to say, your checklist is what's keeping you single. And it's so true. So ladies, reevaluate your checklist, because there's certain things, what I call is what you want versus what you need. What you want, you may want the 6 foot tall, dark, and handsome guy. You may want a man who makes whatever over $150,000 a year. You may want a man that's an attorney, but those aren't actually what you need. What you need, it's more about the core values, how he treats you, your connection, the common interests. Those are way more important than the superficial things of, he must be 6 feet tall. And I've heard this all too often, is a 5'1" girl, and I'm 5'1". You do not need a 6 foot guy. You do not. I don't care if
give us the statistics, Suzanne, on men and height. I love when you break this down.
Oh my God, this is so funny, is that a lot of women, if you feel like you need a guy that's 6 foot and over, do you know what % of the population of men, and this is across the world, not just in the United States, is what % is above 6 feet is 6%. And when you break it down, because I like to make women really visualize this, is that, okay, so now out of 100 guys, only 6 of them are over 6 feet. Now, how many of those 6 men are going to have all the other qualities that you're looking for? Maybe 2? Maybe 3 if you're lucky. And of those 3, how many of those men are actually, you're his type? Pretty slim, I'd say. So when you narrow the parameters down to something like he must be 6 feet tall, or he must have it's going like this, and your dating pool is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you're at the same time going, why haven't I met the one? Well, maybe it's because you're so narrow that it's actually, like Nando says, it's what's keeping you single.
It absolutely is. And I would urge them to watch another episode that we did together about being unavailable women, and having that, all of those like stringent exterior things, that are wants versus needs are definitely, ways that if we're unavailable, that we kind of keep relationships at bay.
Exactly. Well, these have been some awesome tips. So, Abiola, tell our audience where they can find your awesome book and be more mindful in dating.
Yes. Okay. Well, you can find The Sacred Bombshell Handbook of Self-Love. Here is the cover. You can find it wherever you buy books. And so, of course, that's online, Amazon. You can find it on iTunes for Kindle, audiobook coming soon. And of course, you can also find it, in any bookstore. Go in, look for it on the shelves. If they don't have it, give them my name and the name of the book and ask them to order it for you. And you can find it at my site, abiolatv.com, where the TV stands for Transformation and Victory.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Abiola, for being on the show. And thanks, everybody, for joining us on the Single and Stiletto Show. Our show is available both in video format and podcast format. If you'd like to view the videos, you can go to singleandstilettos.com. If you'd like to get the podcast, you can download it from iTunes. If you'd like to get our free report on the top 10 secrets on what attracts a man and what turns him off, you can click right here on the video, or you can go to singleandstilettos.com.